Schneider is in the business of developing, manufacturing, and distribution of machines used in trenchless pipeline processes. Their technology for precise drilling of the root is unique in terms of quality and precision. However, Schneider has failed to deliver on expected returns as they weren't able to access the required distribution network, and this has led to difficulties in securing another investment round. Therefore, the investors and the management decided to dispose of the shares, so meaning selling part of the company. So Bauma AG, who actually has the distribution network that Schneider needed, is a potential acquirer and is starting their due diligence, including valuing the patent portfolio of Schneider, which includes a mix of granted and applied for patent families. And this should serve as the upper bound of the purchasing price when enter negotiations. And we will be speaking about the structure of the valuation model now.
Thank you, Astrid. So when we want to create value through IP, there are three main things to take into account. So the first is the value potential. It's the asset in itself. So here we have, as Astrid mentioned, 6 patent families. 4 of them are delivered or granted in Germany, and the 2 others are still in the application process. There are also, some of them are granted in France, Great Britain, and the US. Then the second aspect that we need to, that will create the value, is the exploitation process. So here we want to use the portfolio to protect the technology, so to exclusify the selling horizontal drilling machines. And lastly, it's the complementary asset. So it's what we need in order to really make that possible. So here we realized that Schneider lacks the distribution network to be able to sell these machines, but Bauma was identified to have them. So this is what will create altogether this value.
Okay, and now to realize this analysis of the value, we need to define, first of all, the cause, the reason of doing this valuation. And the reason is a transfer-oriented reason, because Bauma would like to buy a Schneider in order to define the price that will be the most suitable. They need to know the value of the intangible assets, more precisely the patent families. In this case, after that, we need to define the purpose. And in this case, the question will be, what is the role of the evaluator? The evaluator will have a consulting role. You need to give an advice to Bauma regarding the price and the value of the patent families, and determine the price with respect to what Bauma can do with this patent family, knowing the different other assets that Bauma have. And after that, Natalia will speak about goal and address.
So another 2 important elements for the analysis of the valuation context are the goal and the addressee. So in case we consider the most important goal of the valuation of the patent portfolio is to define the subjective value of the Schneider patent portfolio for the Bauma company. And it is important to consider the information on which patents are filed, which are not, how the Bauma company can use them, and in which exactly markets those can be used. And given the fact that the valuation was requested by the company's management, we can state that it is performed for the internal information addressee.
In terms of task 3, first we needed to understand the direction of the analysis, and we determined it is an internal and in-out analysis in terms of direction. And this is because the effects of the and impacts of the patents being analyzed cannot be traced back 2 as a source of value, and this is mainly because of the failure to develop the distribution systems. In terms of impact, this is through the exclusification of patents to achieve a technological lead. And the appropriation mechanism is through the sales of their own products. These are the drilling machines. And the effect would be the achievement of price premiums through higher levels of sales and higher margins.
Okay, so to make the final decision whether to buy the company and its intangible assets, so which means the patents from Schneider have to be transferred to the BOMA, and to make the final conclusion, so we have to compare the deal with an alternative investment, which means we have to implement the comparison by using the risk adequate discount, which means just to consider consider the time scale about the risk indicators, and to transfer the patent value to the present value. And what's else, to make sure the realization of the value for the BOMA company, it have to analyze whether these assets will be the compulsory assets regarding to the present value chain of BOMA company, and to see whether it's really some real value in use for the company as the future potential buyer regarding to its current business about the infrastructure sectors. And then regarding to the value determination, even though it seems to be a right transfer valuation cost, but in the end, the technology of Schneider will be put in use for the BOMA's business. So in the end, it's still a value in use determination. And then the model of income approach is more adapted to be used for the analysis of the values of the current of the Schneider intangible assets. And then it's also, for this case, it's more preferred to use the relief from loyalty method to calculate the real the value of the 6 patents. Then I give the time to Rodrigo to continue.
Objectification. For this analysis, we talk about the object of the evaluation, and this is the evaluation of Schneider patent portfolio. It's not enough information, so for some point it's a little complicated. But the main topic is the use the some point. And the use of the patent which are used by Schneider in order to keep the competitor placing barriers to block the currently, which grant and same time the technological lead for Schneider, allowing Schneider to increase the income. When I'll say both have a look at this information, it's very important to take a good decision. Bauma is really interested in the patent portfolio protect for blocker than future currently company. Okay.
So in terms of the summary, we had to consider the subject matter being evaluated. And in this case, it is the patent portfolio of Schneider on behalf of BOMA. And since Schneider is being absorbed by BOMA, we're doing it as an assessment using the value and use methodology. In terms of the decision situation which has to be analyzed, Bauma has to consider whether they should go ahead with this acquisition of Schneider or whether they should undertake an alternative investment, and they should do this by way of consideration of their internal standard as far as their required rate of return, sorry. In terms of how the value is determined, based on our analysis, this would be through the use of the income approach using the relief from royalty method based on the savings from the ownership of the patent compared with having to license in the patents and pay royalties. Astrid?
And so the final points are really then the objectification, where the core question is which information may be considered, and sort of how we put all of this information then, all of the available information, and how we can then see that Schneider transfers this value to Bauma AG to make use, or how Bauma basically makes use of these complementary assets to then realize on the value of the value and use that we have described before. And considering all available information, then the last point is to put together the report and the suggested valuation.